This is Conversations with Safe Harbor Therapy, where your friendly practitioners from Safe Harbor Therapy Center come together to discuss life, wellness, and other topics that are important to you. Our team at Safe Harbor Therapy Center offers health and wellness services for body, mind, and soul to clients in Winnipeg and the surrounding areas. And I am Carmen Okmatovsky, marriage and family therapist and director of Safe Harbor Therapy Center. Welcome to the conversation. All right, well, welcome everybody back for Conversations with Safe Harbor Therapy. Today I am here with Brittany Conway and Asia Bilski. Brittany Conway is a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. She graduated from the Canadian Institute of Traditional Chinese Medicine in Calgary, and she's a licensed acupuncturist with the Manitoba Professional Acupuncture Association and holds specialized certifications in oncology, fertility, and cosmetic acupuncture. Before pursuing studies in Calgary, she earned her Bachelor's of Science in Bioanthropology from the University of Winnipeg, with 3 years of prior study in microbiology at the University of Manitoba. So welcome, Brittany.
Hello, thank you.
We're also here with Asia Bilski, who has her Bachelor's of Nursing from University of Manitoba, a certificate in the Felt Sense polyvagal model in treating trauma and addictions, as well as a certificate from the Polyvagal Institute flagship program in polyvagal theory, breathwork facilitation training, pranayama certification, and oxygen advantage certification. So welcome, Asia.
Hello, thank you.
Okay, so today we are addressing the topic of how traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture serve as powerful allies along with breathwork for treating complex PTSD and trauma. So, our special focus is integrating these modalities to help regulate the nervous system and release stored trauma and reestablish safety in the body. Okay, so I wondered if the two of you could first talk to us a little bit about what is complex PTSD and PTSD.
Do you want to field that one, or do you want me?
It's a broad scoping question.
So, complex PTSD is a mental health condition that arises from prolonged or repeated traumatic experiences, often involving interpersonal harm, neglect, or abuse. While it shares core features with PTSD, complex PTSD includes additional symptoms that deeply impact self-identity, emotional regulation, and relationships.
Okay, so complex PTSD is like a long term trauma.
Correct.
Essentially.
And like multiple traumas can
Yeah.
also be a thing. It's not
Yeah.
just one life event. It can be like abusive parent or a relationship. So it's being repeatedly exposed to trauma.
Trauma meaning not necessarily like a bomb went off, but it could be just your nervous system overwhelmed with too much too soon.
Exactly. Or too often as well.
Too often, yeah.
Yeah, and it's outside of your capacity to be able to handle. And also a key feature would be that you don't feel like you have anyone safe that you're able to help you regulate or to come back to that sense of safety. It's kind of an ongoing baseline of not safe.
That's an important part of it, hey? Like
hypervigilance.
The inability to regulate.
Yeah.
And so so complex PTSD is long term, and then PTSD will look like what?
So it has a lot of similar presentations. Like it can be like insomnia, physical pain, anxiety, panic attacks. But the difference is, again, it can be more like a one event they can put their finger to and say like that was the thing, like life changed after that. Whereas complex, it can be a bit harder to say like where the event occurred and when they stop feeling safe and home in their own bodies.
Okay. And we know also from PTSD that there are actual brain changes.
Exactly.
Right?
There's physical changes to the brain as well as chemical changes.
It's different from anxiety in that it's an actual physical condition as well as and affects mental health, right?
Yeah.
Like the amygdala enlarges. I know that. I'll be honest, I don't know much more about the brain changes, but I do know that the amygdala. Brittany knows. Let's see. What do you have to say?
Okay. So this is covered pretty well in like The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Yeah,
Mhm.
like I can't pronounce that name. So there's a lot of changes in the limbic system, which is the system responsible for regulating emotions, memory, and motivation.
So basically, like the security system of your brain.
Exactly. So there's changes in the amygdala and the hippocampus, which is again, it's going to cause issues with regulating because your physical brain has changed.
Okay.
But the physical changes in the brain, they can see that in a PET scan or CT scan, as well as like a functional MRI. They can see that the brain isn't activating in the parts of like a normal, healthy brain.
Okay. All right. So when you say that, the TCM part, not the Western part, does TCM see PTSD in a different way?
It does. So in TCM, there's 5 elements, and there's like 5 main organs. So we have the heart, which is the emperor, and it's protected by the bodyguard, the pericardium. The liver is the general. Then we have the lungs, which is the prime minister. We have the spleen, which is kind of like the farmer. It's responsible for digestion and the muscles. And then we have the kidneys, which are responsible for.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
And then we have the kidneys, which are responsible for water metabolism, but also are governed by fear. So it's interesting that we have the adrenals and the kidneys, like they work in TCM similarly. So when the emperor is on their throne and they're healthy and they're doing their job and there's like peace in the kingdom, everything's working the way it's supposed to. Digestion is regulated, menstruation's regulated, your muscles feel good, there's no tension. And then if there's a trauma and there's too much energy coming out of nowhere for the system to handle, everybody's going to protect the emperor, and you kind of have a coup because the liver, the general, is going to overstep its bounds and sort of override the other organs. So the emperor is gone. The prime minister, the lungs, is like nowhere to be found because they get overpowered by the liver, which is all about action. Because again, it's trying to save you.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want a coup. We want the emperor to be in charge. We want the general to be doing the general stuff, which is like protect the body in a case of a war. The fight or flight responsibly, not being too hyper aroused and then like what I would call a rage monster.
Okay.
When they're too angry all the time, very quick to anger, that is a liver syndrome in TCM. And then the liver, the general, typically attacks the farmers, the spleen, the digestion. So that is why when we're stressed, in TCM standpoint, like we're just not digesting because we're in fight or flight, not rest or digest. So that energy is just overpowering the poor farmers. They're just trying to do their job. So yes, in acupuncture, we're all about restoring harmony to the kingdom, keep the emperor on the throne, and everybody just does their job. That's when we don't get trauma, but we get traumatized when the emperor is not on the throne in TCM standpoint.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Cool.
That's way more complicated than I thought it was.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Super cool.
I hadn't heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
So it was so rambly. Hopefully that made sense.
Super
so it's like get the emperor on the throne and everybody chill, and that is go back to your job.
Places.
Don't do other jobs. Let the lungs
cool.
be the prime minister, and everything's fine.
Really neat. Yeah, very cool.
How about from a breathwork standpoint? How does breathwork look at PTSD?
Breathwork can be really powerful in calibrating after PTSD or after CPTSD in the way that it helps us be able to access and experience our emotions. Because often when we go through a trauma, whether it's a big a big one-time trauma or repeated small-time traumas, part of our survival mechanism is to become really disassociated from our bodies and from our felt sense. We might have a tendency to numb through certain behaviors or to avoid our feelings or to distract or push away. And over time, we end up getting really disconnected from our emotional state of being.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that saying that you have to feel it to heal it. But
Right.
a lot of us have kind of lost our capacity to be able to do that. So our breath is a really powerful way to be able to tap into our bodies and to actually experience our emotions, so that A, we can finish the stress cycle that might be trapped within our body, and B, just kind of get that witnessing and that experiencing of the felt experience, so that we can register it inside of our brains and be able to close that cycle and be able to integrate the experiences.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that stress cycle? Like, what do you mean?
So often when we experience a stressful event, there will be the event that will cause a trigger, and it will cause an activation of our nervous system, and it might cause an increase in our stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline. And if it's able to be discharged in a healthy way, so for anger, for example, the healthy discharge of that would be able to express it, maybe be able to channel it into something so that you can protect yourself or create a sense of change.
Yeah.
And we have a way to dispel that energy, essentially, to be able to let it release from our bodies.
Okay.
If we're not able to discharge that energy, it gets trapped within our bodies.
You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of like the washing cycle on your clothes washer.
Okay.
And you know how when you stop it midway, then
Yeah.
like it's not all wrung out. You
Yeah,
can't
it's
move
just
it
like
on,
that
you just have,
residue.
like, soggy clothes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking
Yeah,
of.
totally.
Like
It's
your
just like
emotions just kind of like
that residue.
out there.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that charge is still within our bodies, and it can create a lot of physical and emotional harm. So, like, even if we think of animals out in the wilderness, oftentimes, like, you'll notice an animal who goes through stress, they'll go through the stressful event and they'll literally shake it off. That's their way of dispelling. And that's in a healthy way what we'd be able to do to discharge that energy, release that energy. But again, we get so conditioned to kind of suppress all of that down, and that energy gets trapped within us.
As humans, we're not very good at that anymore, hey? Like,
yeah.
We've lost that skill of shaking it off quite
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
I think if I saw humans shaking it off as often as I see my dog shaking it off, it would be a wild place out there.
Gotta have that living room dance party to let it out. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's a symptom of our culture. Absolutely. It's very frowned upon to have those open expressions of emotions. And then also from conditioning through complex trauma, for example, oftentimes it's not safe to feel or to express or to move through your emotions. There's a lot of messaging of like, don't be seen, don't be heard, don't talk about it, don't show your emotions.
Don't be rude.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
take up space.
Yeah, for sure.
But all are necessary in some way to release all the tension.
Yeah, they're there for.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
All the tension.
Yeah, they're there for a reason. Our emotions, we need to let them run their course.
So then I want to go back to you, Brittany, because you talked to us about all the different parts and all of the different parts of the system. I was about to say governors, but they're not all governors. We've got farmers in there too. So how does TCM or acupuncture restore the balance? Like you said, we need to put the emperor back in its place, but how?
So I'm going to link that to what was just previously talked about, like the trauma sequence. So when we're startled, that's metal in TCM. So that's the lungs and large intestine. Governs our skin, our like spidey senses start tingling, and our hair stands up on edge. All mammals do that because we all have body hair. And then we go to defensive orienting, which is the water element. So that's the kidney and bladder channels. And then after that, we're doing like a specific self-protective response. So that's the fight or flight or freeze. So that would be the general. Also, the general has a helper, which is the gallbladder, and he's the judge. So many people have their gallbladders removed, and in TCM, like, you just remove the judge from the kingdom. So like, how are you supposed to regulate if you're missing that organ? But So then there's going to be that component with the digestion impacted. After the trauma, so the completion, which is really important. So once you've run away and the situation's over, then you can complete and then integrate. But if you can't run away because you're literally stuck there, or you can't fight your opponent, or there's an interruption in the sequence, then you're not going to be able to metabolize that incident properly. And so it's literally trapped in your tissues. So with acupuncture, we're helping to release that trapped energy in the physical tissues. And acupuncture will release endorphins, increase dopamine, serotonin, and GABA, which will reduce anxiety, lower the cortisol, enhances melatonin production, which regulates circadian rhythm. So you're actually sleeping better. You can actually digest your food, which of course is going to help your overall body. And then so you're able to metabolize physically as well as emotionally.
Okay. Wow. And it does all that.
That's really cool.
All right.
With little needles. Who would have thought?
Yeah, that's super cool.
So, and you were saying, Asia, that with breath work, you regulate more through like really tapping in, like somatically, completing the stress cycle. It sounds like it's similar in a way.
Yeah, there are similarities for sure. I mean, they're both body-based modalities for one thing, and I think they both work with like life force energy and energy channels in different ways. Yeah, the breath is really powerful also in the way that it shifts our body chemistry and our nervous system state and our brain waves. All of that comes together to create like a really powerful shift in our state of being, so that we have the capacity to all of a sudden process and move through emotions from like a slightly different place than what we normally have access to. And that can be really helpful in allowing us to gather some new insights and clarity and be able to integrate in a different way. We kind of get stuck in those same ruts of processing, those same like neural pathways, those same behaviors, those same subconscious patterns. And the shifts that are created through our breath, and particularly the active breathing, the 3-part breath that we would use for trauma healing or for repatterning, it creates a shift in our nervous system state, initially into the sympathetic and then a rebound into the parasympathetic, changes our brain waves into a theta state or a dreamlike state. Oh, wow. Yeah, and it shifts our body chemistry in a way that helps us to be able to, we can go more into the science if you want, but in a very simple way to say it, to kind of quiet the analytical and the judgment part of our brain, to get more connected to the more subconscious primal parts of our brain where we house our emotions and our memories and our beliefs. So it helps us to be able to tap into all of that and be able to reprocess in a way that the judgment part of our brain is not necessarily able to override the way that it normally would be able to. Yeah.
And it sounds like it would be a really vulnerable, but also a really safe process as long as there's somebody there. To help hold the space for you and help guide you.
Yeah, that is a good point, because I think even myself, I've been tempted and have tried to do deeper healing through breathwork on my own. And for a longer session, for the purpose of deep inner healing, it is, you really do want someone there to be able to guide you, someone that you've been able to establish a relationship with, establish trust with. And for that reason, I usually don't go too deep in my first session, just so that we can build some trust. But yeah, you want someone there to have that sense of being held and supported, because you are in a slightly different state of being than what you would normally be in. And it is a place where you're tapped more into your vulnerable side, and you need that sense of being held and supported.
I know. I have tried that with brain spotting and EMDR just as a curiosity, like, can I do this? Can this be self-administered? I know there are people who say it can be, but for me, there's no way. Like, I really need somebody to be holding the space for me. And to know, like, I can let go of my, and like really dig in and not wonder if somebody's got my back, or if something comes up, that I'll be sitting there alone in it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because it's really hard to guide yourself from the logical part of your brain if you're trying to quiet that part of your brain and tap into the more subconscious. It's pretty difficult to be able to do both, and I'm not sure that it's to your best benefit to try.
So
Yeah.
so in a way, you could say that the TCM and acupuncture kind of like works with.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Say that the TCM and acupuncture kind of like works with the body systems and the physicality of it. Maybe this is an overgeneralization, but does it sound like breath work can also help with like the emotional part of it, or do they both do both?
I think they both do both.
Yeah.
Like TCM definitely does treat like physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. And then with the acupuncture needles, and you do also kind of go into an altered state of consciousness. I call it the needle nap. So it just helps quiet the mind so you can do the deep healing.
For sure. Yeah. And breathwork absolutely is like a holistic healing modality. And I think it's nice too because there is what I would consider a lot of spiritual connection and spiritual benefit to it, but it's kind of cool in the way that there is so much purely physical benefit that if that's the part that you're wanting to explore, you can just focus on that. There's also so much emotional benefit. So if that's the part you're wanting to explore, by all means, we can focus on that. There's so many different avenues that you can approach it from. And I think your willingness to be open to explore any of those avenues is the part that makes a big difference. So if you're not open to one facet of it, that's okay. There's still all these other things that we can look at.
Right.
Yeah.
So say somebody wanted to come for to work on their trauma, and they wanted to use breathwork and acupuncture somehow in tandem or in coordination. How would you do that?
Yeah, I think the two modalities can work very well complementary to each other. They're both really restorative in their sense of helping us to come back to our body's sense of healing. So I think they could work really well in combination with each other. Maybe not back to back. I think it would likely be best to have some time to integrate each session, but I think they could complement each other really well in helping restore the body's sense of safety and to access that emotional and physical healing.
Mm-hmm. Does that sound about right to you as well?
Yeah. Like I think they play well together. You could definitely do like a breathwork session before your acupuncture treatment, or vice versa, depending on the individual and like what was being worked on. You might need a bit more time between, but generally, like if you're already in a relaxed state from either acupuncture or breathwork, then you're kind of like primed and ready for the next one.
So if clients wanted to contact one of you and then says, okay, I also want to see this person, would you help them coordinate that, or would they need to contact both of you individually?
I think if they couldn't like figure it out in the Jane booking app, then just sending us an email, we could try and coordinate with schedules.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we could collaborate.
They could access you on the Jane app, both of you individually, and then let you know that they're trying to coordinate in case there needs to be anything done on the back end to make sure it flows smoothly.
Yeah, we could collaborate for sure.
Because some of my patients will have like other modalities either before and after, and they'll just like mention it to me, especially if they just had like talk therapy and they're like super emotional, then I can help calm things down, or they have talk therapy after. So then we can go deeper in the relaxation, so then they're more open to the talk therapy.
Oh, yeah. I like that idea. Is there
do that? Okay, let's talk about the window of tolerance and emotional regulation from a TCM perspective. So when we're hyper aroused and we're in that sympathetic fight or flight, there's a deactivation of our prefrontal cortex. So that is like our analytical mind. We can't really think super clearly in this state. Our body's basically just trying to keep us alive. That is a very yang state. It's all about action. When we're hypo-aroused.
Is yang the same thing as when people say yin yang?
Yes. Okay. And that's another point, is we're never just fully yin or fully yang. There's a bit of nuance. There's a little bit of yin in the yang, and there's a little bit of yang in the yin, which plays really well with the polyvagal theory, the three states. So we're not always fight or flight or rest and digest. We can be a little bit of both. So the hypoarousal, we're kind of in that freeze, we're emotionally numb, we're disconnected, dissociated, exhausted, lack of motivation, and depressed. That is very yin. So we would want to bring in more of an activating treatment for that particular type of state. So we'd use acupuncture needles that are more activating versus the hyperarousal fight or flight. Don't come for acupuncture when you're having a panic attack, but like after, when
shortly after.
Yeah, when you're like running for your life, you don't want acupuncture at that moment. But
when you're coming back down from it.
Yes.
Okay.
When you're coming back down, then that's when we can put some needles in.
I also saw some note about how like our trauma is stored in our fascia.
Yes.
And I know there were some other places there too.
Yes. So we store different emotions in different tissues. So muscles in traditional Chinese medicine are governed by the spleen. That's the farmer. So when we are getting overrun by the crazy general, we're going to not be digesting our food, and we're going to be storing that in our muscles. So then we're getting tight neck, tight shoulders, versus say other emotions can also be stored in fascia. Fascia is that sort of saran wrap that coats the muscles. So it is a different meridian than the muscles itself. So for example, like plantar fasciitis, I'm not going to treat the muscles because that's not where the issue, that's not where the pain is.
I did not know that.
So that
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
where the pain is.
I did not know that.
So that's at the bottom of the feet. So that is more of like the kidney. That's more fear-based energy.
Okay, good to know. So then that's what, do you put the needles at different levels then to get to different spots?
Yes, yes. So there is a technique like where you will actually touch the bone to heal the fear.
Wow.
It doesn't hurt. So like that's another point with acupuncture is it doesn't hurt as badly as most people think. And a lot of trauma survivors, the last thing they want is to be poked with needles, but it is very gentle. And I'm always listening to feedback and also watching the breath. So if like something is too much, I'll just pull the needle back and just very like listen to the feedback of the individual I'm treating. So if there's muscle pain, put the needle in the muscle. I don't want to poke the nerve, but like very close to the nerve for like nerve pain. And again, it's just a little zip when the needle goes in, but then it's pain-free after that. Also, depending on the seasons, the needles will go to different depths. So we're taking into consideration the individual in front of us, their body constitution, their body type, as well as the environment we're in. It all will dictate the treatment.
So that makes me have a question for Asia about what do you do when people are too hesitant to go too deep in like somatically or emotionally?
I respect that. There's also a whole other branch of breathwork that we haven't even really touched on is the functional breathwork. So
Functional?
yeah,
Okay.
so or more like breathwork interventions or for the purpose of reaching a desired outcome that maybe has nothing to do with trauma intervention. So maybe it's just for the purpose of establishing that safety. So we're going to be intentionally activating the rest and digest part of our nervous system, learning skills that we can utilize throughout our day to help us cope better with big feelings, big emotions, sleep better, deal with stress better. So that might be a better place to start to establish safety with myself and with the breath itself as a practice. Is these more baseline practices of breathing to help us just throughout our day-to-day life. I find that's a really good way to start, just to build that trust and build that relationship. And it's a really cool way to see for yourself, like, wow, I tried this thing for 3 minutes, tried breathing in this way, and most people, if not all people, are able to see really quickly before and after how they feel differently in their bodies and in their nervous system state. So that's a really good place to stay in, and that's always a nice place to come back to for safety as well. If we ever feel like maybe you've gone too far, I really promote agency and autonomy in the practice. I'm never going to push anyone further than what they feel comfortable moving into. I'm always picking up on those cues as well. And I always like to provide that option of, if you feel overwhelmed at any point, go back to this particular breathing that at that point you would have comfort and safety established with, to bring you back to that place of safety within your body.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good to know. Any other thoughts, either of you?
Oh, one thing I didn't really touch on, just a little segue back into digestion from breathwork. So the lungs in TCM, they're the prime minister. They have a really important job. They're also responsible for descending and dispersing the chi. So from the moment we're born, so the first breath of life, once we've left the womb, it is the lungs and the digestion that are responsible for everything after birth. So it's called post-heaven chi metabolism. Okay. So when we're looking at like cultivating our energy and how we can get more energy, it's not just diet. It's not just foods we're eating. It's also the breath is a huge part of it. Oh, interesting. So when we're looking at like what can we do to get more energy, breath is a huge component of that. And then again, the breath is about descending and dispersing that energy throughout the whole body. And the lungs are partners with the large intestine in TCM. They're a yin-yang pair. So people that are constipated, they're blocked up because their lungs aren't pushing down. It's not descending that energy. So if you're holding your breath and you're doing really shallow breathing, it's going to impact your digestion, which also plays with the vagus nerve.
Okay. Interesting. I would not have connected those two.
Very cool. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's like if you're a little constipated, do some breath work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we're gonna wrap up then.
Sure.
It's been really nice to talk to you both. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and if you would like to connect with Brittany or with Asia, you can find them on our website at safeharbortherapy.com or on our scheduling page at safeharbor.jnap.com. That's
perfect.
All right.
And if you want to know more about acupuncture, I have my own website, Conway Acupuncture, as well as on Facebook and Instagram.
And Asia, what's your
my
website?
Business Instagram and website are both Sunkissed Breath. So Instagram Sunkissed Breath and sunkissedbreath.com.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Thank you for joining our conversation today. If you would like to book a session, you can visit our website at safeharbortherapy.com or our booking page at safeharbor.jnap.com. That's SAFEHARBOUR.JANEAPP.com. For more info, or if you have questions or even suggestions for our podcast, you may write us at info@safeharbortherapy.com. We hope you'll join us again for our next conversation with Safe Harbor Therapy.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.